Greetings, my fellow knights. This is Pyro Knight 95, and welcome back to the channel. Today I would like to speak to you about something close to me, and something that I'm sure that you've all heard about before. We're diving right into the mainstream, and today we're going to talk about plot armor. Now, I can hear you asking, as I'm sure you are, Pyro, what is plot armor? Well, yes, simpleton. Plot armor, also known as character shields or plot shields, as defined by Urban Dictionary, are plot devices in films and television that prevent important characters from dying or being seriously injured at dramatic, inconvenient moments. It often denotes a situation in which it strains credibility to believe that the character would survive. Otherwise, otherwise it's basically known as something that drags out your suspension of disbelief. And I think it's important to note that this is only almost ever present in fiction. So you're already sustaining your disbelief enough to believe that, like, say you're reading a comic book, that this spandex wearing man with a shield that is unbreakable would survive being hit by a nuke or something like that without dying. And plot armor itself is something that a lot of people hate. Like, I mean a lot. Just look into any anime YouTubers' comment section, and you can see them and their subscribers. Not gonna name any specific, but if you look in the anime community, you know who I'm talking about. Complaining, they complain about how, oh, this character shouldn't be able to do this. Oh, this character should be dead. No, their power, that makes no sense. How'd they get that? It's plot armor, plot armor, plot armor. They only ever win because they're the main character, because plot armor. They should be dead, even as the main character, because plot. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drop a little bit of a secret on you guys as an English major and someone who has studied writing very intensely. And leaning real close, okay? Every character in a story has plot armor until the author decides it's time for it to go. Notable examples of characters who are described as having plot armor include Goku from Dragon Ball Z, the Dragon Ball franchise. And you guys know, Goku gets power up after power up after power up, and he lives for a good deal of, like, his entire series because he's the main character. But that also doesn't mean that he's immune from death, as we saw at the start of Dragon Ball Z. Goku fucking dies. But you will see YouTubers and just people online complaining back and forth that Goku has plot armor. As I just said, every character in a story has plot armor until the author decides it is no longer time for them to have plot armor. My example of this is Krillin. So, you know Krillin dies in Dragon Ball. Also, spoilers for anyone, I guess, who still cares about this show that's been out forever. Krillin dies as a child in Dragon Ball, but they resurrect him with the Dragon Balls. And Krillin lives up until the Frieza saga, where he is blown up and Goku becomes a Super Saiyan as a result. Now, wouldn't you say Krillin had plot armor between his death in Dragon Ball up until that point to where he dies in Z? I mean, he went up against Raditz, he went up against Vegeta and Nappa, and he did not die at any point during those confrontations. In fact, he almost killed Vegeta, but Krillin never dies. Why is that? It's because Toriyama wasn't ready for him to die. It was not Krillin's time, narratively, to die. The same thing can be said for Gohan and Vegeta. Gohan had his neck snapped while fighting Raccoon. He got kicked in the neck and nearly died. But he didn't. He got a sensu bean. Sensu beans are literally like plot armor items. They can heal you and save you. And Vegeta, like I said, back on Earth, was about to be stabbed and killed by Krillin, but Goku spared him. In the Japanese dub, I guess it's mostly because Goku wanted a good fight and wanted to fight Vegeta again. And in the English dub, it's more, I guess, Goku's the savior, which I'll probably make a video about that because people really hate that too. But yeah, and he's also excited about fighting him again. So Vegeta gets spared by Goku. Goku's plot armor, I guess, can be extended to other people. But people have huge problems with plot armor and figure that it's only a cheap narrative tool to keep characters alive. And this mostly comes to the detriment of any sort of character. Like, maybe not within the story, but outside of it, to the fan base. For example, Goku. Goku's a character that is fairly divisive. He's he's never been more so until Super came out. Up until then, Goku was always sort of dumb, but like not retarded. Goku was a lovable guy who fought to protect his friends, but also enjoyed fighting. When Super rolled around, they lowered his intelligence quite a bit and made him more of an active threat to anyone he would love in the planet that he chose to protect than he's ever been in the past. And this is also sort of reflected through his like growth in the series, not as a character, but power-wise. Right at the start, we see that Goku is no match for Beerus in Super Saiyan 3. So what's he do? There's conveniently this ritual that when you have 5 pure-hearted Saiyans, you can become a god. And this also gives us Pan, because big reveal. Vidal's pregnant because Gohan porked her. So Goku becomes a god. Cool. So he's stronger than Beerus now, right? He's gonna win. No, Goku loses. So that once again puts him forward into training because now he has something to aim for. That also conveniently makes Vegeta forget his character growth at the end of Z, and makes him want to push to be better than Goku again, even though he prior to this accepted that he was not stronger than Goku. So they both train, get blue, and at this point, everyone's just sort of like, "Oh, wow, okay, so you're just gonna get stronger, but who can you fight? Beerus isn't really a villain; it's his job to be a destroyer." Well, you bring back a villain who's very popular, bringing in Frieza. And Frieza gets a bit of plot armor here. You're like, okay, well, how can Frieza, who's been dead for like, how many years? It was like a decade and a half, maybe. I'm not exactly sure about the Dragon Ball timeline. But after 4 months of being resurrected by the Dragon Balls, 4 months of training, which his training is shown to be just beating up someone a lot weaker than him. 4 months of training like that, and he is able to reach the level of Super Saiyan Blue. A new form that Goku and Vegeta obtained by training with literal gods. It makes no sense, but people accept it because, oh, that's cool. But I'm not even going to front. I've seen a lot of people complain about this, which surprised me because people love Frieza for some reason. And they were like, that actually makes no sense. Frieza, after 4 months of training, should not be able to reach what Goku and Vegeta have strove for over decades. It makes no sense. It was also Frieza's first time ever training. But at least Frieza's plot armor had a drawback. Because he had not mastered the form, he fell out of it soon enough. And I guess that's because he's the villain. Goku and Vegeta never really show a sign of drawback for their plot armor growth. But, at the same time, you can't completely fault the writers for this. Or at least I believe you shouldn't be able to. I mean, in the manga, we see that Blue has a huge stamina drain, and each time it's spammed and bursts, it gets weaker. And this is an interesting balance note, and I'm okay with it. Because it shows that you have to have the perfect ki control, but you also can't ground just bursting your power. It's an interesting way to show that they have this ability gained through a sort of plot, but at the same time there are drawbacks. Unfortunately, plot armor like this is used frequently, especially in fiction. A couple of examples that I have where people are spared from death or extreme loss like that, mostly in anime, come from things like Fairy Tail. None of the main characters ever die in Fairy Tail. I'll go ahead and tell you that now. You never see the one time you see Lucy die, it's a future version of Lucy, and it's obviously not our Lucy, so it doesn't really matter. Then Lasana, I believe, who everyone is told at the beginning is dead and is a huge source of stress for Mira Jane and Elfman, just turns out to be an alternate world. She's not dead. She just got kabloomed into another world. And then you have comic books as well, and there are a lot of characters, and they try to explain away by abilities, like Wolverine. Wolverine has some of the most plot survival based things ever. And it's because he's so popular, and that's fine. But like, he's also got advanced healing, adamantium skeleton, so he's durable and he'll just regen everything that hits him. But at the same time, people can't get enough of him, and it's a plot armor all in itself that he can just survive all of this. And the only way they could kill him off successfully in the movies lately was by making him really old and have the adamantium start poisoning him to the point where his like regen factor can no longer really work against it. So he just dies, and you're like, oh, okay, this didn't happen sooner. Why? It's not confusing, but a plot armor is convenient, and that's the thing about it. That's why it doesn't really matter, and that's why I feel like no one should be upset about it. Plot armor, as I said before, is just the means by which authors can keep their characters alive and also tell interesting stories. Getting mad at them for keeping characters alive and using them in certain ways that allow them to keep their story going is childish. Like, imagine, if you would, when the Saiyans get to Earth, their only real motive is to punish Goku and kill him for being a Saiyan who doesn't really do his job, as well as wanting to find out about these Dragon Balls. Okay? So, they find Piccolo, and the Z Fighters. If we really wanted to, like, just not deal with the plot of everything, we just have Vegeta and Nappa instantly jump into the fight instead of using Cybermen, knock out Piccolo, kill everyone else, and then interrogate him. Seeing as he has, like, nothing to... They have no reason to keep any of the other Z Fighters alive. And the whole cocky attitude of, haha, we'll just see them and let them play around with the Cybermen. It's stupid. That goes with any kind of movie that uses henchmen, I suppose. Like, for example, I'll jump to another series real quick. Tell me if I'm off base. Things like Star Wars. Like, you see, like, Darth Vader. Like, when they're attacking the rebels, I believe, in episode 4, it's like, oh, here are a bunch of stormtroopers to, like, shoot and get Leia and all these rebels. And you're like, okay, cool, but, like, if you really wanted to do it, why don't you just send Vader? And they do. And, like, if they want to crush the rebellion, right? And I guess by getting Leia, then they'll just be able to find out, scout, and destroy the rebellion. But, like, if they really, really wanted to, wouldn't they just kill Leia? And wouldn't that just destroy the morale of the rebellion? By destroying the head of a rebellion, you're essentially destroying the morale of the troops. And this was before a point where Leia or anyone else really had a presence. Luke hadn't even been found by Obi-Wan yet and trained. But imagine if they just killed Leia there. Then a lot of things in the Star Wars universe would have played out differently, yeah? And that includes the EU. But they can't, because the character's not meant to die there. All in all, or I guess in summary, plot armor is something that is necessary for stories and necessary for characters. Otherwise, you just have beginning, someone died, or main character dies, no one else can stand up to the threat. In the end, you wouldn't have a story. You'd have a short story, a really short story, where the bad guy wins just because no one wants to accept that sometimes you gotta be lenient with what you can and can't believe. In other words, you gotta let your disbelief be suspended just a little bit more. Okay? And that's not a bad thing. It's actually okay. It's what gets us involved with the story. And I suppose, as someone who is struggling to write their own stories, it's something that I'll have to work on, because otherwise you guys are just going to complain a lot, like you always do. But yeah, that was my take on plot armor. I kind of got jumbled around a bit. My script's a little messed up. I don't know. It's just been on my mind a lot because people always complain about it, and I don't think they fully understand why it's a concept that exists. But yeah, let me know what you thought about my discussion here in plot armor, and why you think I'm wrong, or what you think, or if you agree at any point. But yeah, leave a comment, drop a like if you liked this, or if you hated it, or whatever. And until the king summons us again, keep your flames a-burning, my faithful knights.